It's funny. The taking care of our own health has been a new big thing, and then family is part of that. My daughter's graduating high school right now, so I've been on lockdown for no travel, which on some hand gets me stir crazy, but on the other hand, I've loved.
It's great when you have those weeks, and congratulations to your daughter. I'm really thrilled for you.
Thank you. We just lost our championship lacrosse game, but we're getting over it.
All right, but they worked hard to get to the championship.
But they keep telling me.
Yeah.
Welcome to Teague Talks. I'm your host, Teague Hunter. What makes our industry so special is the individuals and their stories. Today, we're sitting down with Jolyon Bulley, CEO of IHG Americas. We're going to learn about what it's like growing up in Australia, his 20-year IHG career, and what he brings from his global experiences to the States. Jolyon, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Teague. Thanks for taking the time to have the conversation.
So this is going to be fun. You've been in the business, in the position, you've been in the position now a year?
Just on a year, yeah.
All right. Big expectations for you, by the way.
Yeah, big boots to fill. You know, my former role guy is now the global CEO of IHG, so following his footsteps.
Yeah, what are we giving Ellie big props, or that's what he's got you for, right? Come handle Americas while he's handling the globe.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the case.
Okay, so start. I want to get to IHG and your role and everything, but first, as always, we got to get to who you are. So, who is Jolyon Bulley, and how did he end up in this crazy industry?
Well, as you can tell by my deep southern accent, I grew up in Australia.
What's it like growing up in Australia? I'm picturing an 8-year-old Jolyon in Australia. What's he doing?
Lots of time outdoors. There's no question about that. Played Aussie rules football, which is very foreign over here, but still dear to my heart. I played it through school and through college, but never really the A grade area. I played as a running forward, you'd call it, which is sort of like the glamour role, but I was no good on the defense side of things. Played cricket, another foreign sport over here, but really loved cricket, still do today. And then I was a swimmer. Australia's got such a great climate, spent a lot of time in the ocean and in the pool, but never was a surfer.
Someday I'll get you to explain the difference between Aussie rules football and rugby, but I digress.
Yeah, it's complicated, but best way to do it, throw a shrimp on the barbie, have a couple of beers, and I'll teach you the sport.
The old Crocodile Dundee coming out. All right, so I need to hear more about growing up.
My grandparents were hotel keepers back in the UK many, many years ago, and then it skipped a generation. I grew up in Melbourne, finished school, but I always wanted to get into the hospitality industry. I used to take holidays with my parents, would be fascinated by staying in a hotel and going in to watch what things would happen in reception and around the place. So it was a fascination from day one. So my natural course after school was to go to college. I went to hospitality school in Melbourne at a college called William Anglis. After graduating from there, I joined one of now our competitor brands. It was the Hilton on the Park in Melbourne, which was the leading hotel in Melbourne at the time. And the purpose I joined them was to join what was the Hilton Graduate Management Program at that point in time. So I took the learnings from college into application at that hotel.
So you think you always wanted to be in the hotel business? From watching grandma, granddad operate this?
Yeah, there was no question in my mind. Neither of my parents were in
what'd they do? What'd mom and dad do?
Well, dad was in the finance industry, so he was a financier. My mother was a great mother, but she was also an actress. She used to do a lot of stage and television commercials, and I took a deviation from that and went back to the generation before. So that's what got me into the game.
That's where it comes from, though. There you go. I got it. The actor in you comes from mom's side.
Possibly, yeah. I guess we're all on stage in this industry, so there's no question about that.
My daughter's getting into that space, so I'll have to ask your mom for some advice.
Well, she's 91 now, so
she knows. She's all right. She still knows. Yeah. Okay, so good. So we always want to do the business. So we graduate college, we go work for the Hilton. What was our first job?
Well, front desk clerk,
of course,
at the Hilton. So I did that. Did the shift work for about 18 months, and then I was fortunate to get into their graduate program. So that was a 2.5-year program, as you know, doing every job around the hotel, initially as one of the workers and then in supervisory and management level. So that was great. I finished that, moved into food and beverage.
Hang on. Do you recommend that program for people? Is that in general, these management programs, if you can get into it?
Oh, they're great, but I'd recommend an IHG program.
Of course. Here's my application.
No, but we do a lot for graduating talent and people that are really wanting to find a path in the industry. And what we find is retention stays at about 80%. So those that want to enter it and those that are successful going through it come out with them and start their career within our industry. We need lots of that.
Yeah, that counts for you. You're still in the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so we graduate from the program, and then what?
Yeah, well, I then said, well, I'm now a hotelier, and it's time to get on the move. So I moved to the Gold Coast, which is, I guess, Australia's version of Miami. Got into the leisure side of the business. And that was when I joined a company called SPHG, which IHG eventually acquired. So again, working my way up through operations there in the Gold Coast and then in Cairns up in the Great Barrier Reef. And then an opportunity came to go to Malaysia and expand our business in Malaysia. So I went in there to open a hotel in Penang in Malaysia as the number 2, and then soon became a GM in Malaysia in a place called Kanga, which no one's ever heard of. Very, very far and distant on the border of Malaysia and Thailand. But that was my first GM's gig, so I took it and really enjoyed that. Spent a couple of years in New Zealand, in Christchurch, and then went back to Asia again. So, I really fell in love with Southeast Asia. And at that point, when I went back to Southeast Asia, my wife and I, who's Australian, got married. Prior to that, spent a couple of years there. She fell pregnant with our first son, and we went back to Australia and had our 3 children back in Australia. And during that time, I left this company called SPHG, and moved into asset management with effectively what we would call a REIT over here. It was Bankers Trust had a hotel group. So I moved into asset management, and we acquired a couple of hotels, one of them being Hayman Island, which is a very famous island resort on the Great Barrier Reef. And as we acquired those, we were going through transition. So I moved up there for 3 months as the GM and decided to see it through the transition. Spent 2 years there, which was great. Moved back to Sydney in asset management. And then in 2000, it was about the year 2000, I decided it's great sitting on this side of the fence, but I wanted to get back into the real business. And that's when I joined what is IHG today. That was back late 2020. And in that area, I spent a couple of years running our sales and marketing across the South Pacific area. So I was, acquiring these skills of operations, asset management, sales and marketing. And at the time I was enjoying what I was doing, but wasn't really connecting the dots of the foundation that I built for my career. So after that, again, back to Asia. Our 3 kids were on their way. So spent 6.5 years in Singapore with IHG. And during that time, I was running operations for Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia and Korea, which was great. Singapore was a good place to have a family, great infrastructure, but just working across so many cultures and countries was amazing. And then it's a long story.
And then the family was happy to follow you.
Yeah,
let's go Singapore. How did they enjoy Singapore?
Oh, they loved it. I mean, it's fantastic. It's what we used to say was Singapore was more Asia for beginners, right? So having a family, adapting into that environment, it was safe, good infrastructure, great medical, great international schools.
Was that always your being in Australia? Part of my ignorance. Was it always your goal to get out and to travel the world, or were you no? I'm very happy being in Australia. It just happened.
No. I think once I really got going in the industry during those formative years. This is an international market, and the industry was quite immature. I mean, let's face it, even today the population of Australia is only 28 million people. So, I really wanted to forge a career, and was with a great company. IHG were really good to me. So we spent 6.5 years there, and then a guy that really well, Keith Barr, was running our China business, Greater China business, and I'd known Keith for a long time, and after really enjoying that time in Singapore, I went and joined Keith in Shanghai, and I became the Chief Operating Officer of IHG for Greater China. And then we had about 130 hotels open, and we were growing fast. So went and worked alongside Keith there. He obviously then went on to a global role. And I was in Shanghai for about 3.5 years with the family. Very different to Singapore, professionally and personally. But once again, it was good for the family to experience that time and for me to work in a country like China. And then it was 2014. The opportunity came to come to the Americas. And again, at that point in time, I knew nothing about the North American business, knew nothing about scale, knew nothing about franchise, and knew nothing pretty much about mid-scale because our business over in Asia is very much upscale, luxury, and managed. So everyone told me that I didn't have all those skills, but I thought, well, shoulder to the wheel, and we relocated to Atlanta in 2014. And I was Chief Operating Officer here under Ellie. Initially Kirk Kinsell and then Ellie. And was here for about 4 years. And then Keith, who was then the global CEO, asked me if I'd go back and join his executive committee, but go back to China and relocate to Shanghai as the CEO for IHG in Greater China. That was a difficult decision because we'd settled here and Atlanta's now home. The kids were well and truly advanced in their education. So made the choice and did a long distance commute between Atlanta and Shanghai. Unfortunately, Delta had direct flights, so that was manageable. And my wife used to come over and back and that type of thing. So I was there. We were just on 300 hotels in Shanghai, or in Greater China at the time, and spent 4 years there as the CEO through the pandemic, which was really difficult. Got stuck there for 11 months, couldn't leave, but that's no different to the harshness that all of us had to experience. And after 4 years in Shanghai, we doubled our business. We were 300 when I got there. We're 700 when I finished my tenure in there, and about 500 in our pipeline. And IHG is certainly the number one international hotel group in Greater China. So I was really proud of what we were achieving, and we're continuing to accelerate our growth there. And then there was another stop on the way back to Atlanta. I was running China out of London. We had a managing director in the market, but also did IHG's luxury and lifestyle transformation with the acquisition of Six Senses and Regent, and we were building out our portfolio. So we really had to move our sort of focus from, I guess, the machine to becoming much more bespoke in how we tackled performance and growth and building capability in luxury and lifestyle. So I was based in London for about 18 months. Keith retired from IHG. Ellie was appointed as his successor. And then that brought me back to Atlanta this time last year as the regional CEO. So I'm one of the few industry people that have done 2 tours of duty in China, and then 2 jobs in the US in the Americas region, but also worked for Ellie as my boss twice and Keith as my boss twice. So quite an interesting journey, but here I am and I'm thrilled to be back.
I think you're the perfect guy for the job. I have so many questions right now that I'm not going to go to, part of which are I want to talk to your kids. What was it like moving around, living in all the different places? And even your wife, having a husband gone for 11 months in China.
Yeah. Well, look, my wife was from the industry, so she understood the demands of it. As I said, we met and married in a hotel, married in a hotel, and travelled together. So she understood that, and she understood my passion for the industry, but my ambition to grow in the industry and grow internationally. And we were fortunate that, we both had the same common goals there. The kids, we've got 3 kids. They're now 28, 25 and 20. They're living here. Well, one of them's living in New York. The other 2 are here in Atlanta, and this is our home. But they adapted really well. But when we went from Australia to Singapore to Shanghai and then to Atlanta, that was the end of that cycle of being on the road. But one thing we really felt, but by they're in international schools, but living in different countries, adapting, finding new friends, really getting settled, 3 or 4 times in their formative years, really built out their resilience, but also their open mindset to the world. And, a global experience for young kids is certainly something that we didn't see as a disadvantage. We actually seen it as an advantage, and they're very confident in that regard.
Yeah, I bet they're amazing kids.
Yeah.
And none of them in the industry.
One of them.
One of them?
The eldest, Max, he's here. He's in the industry, not by any any influence from me, but when we moved to Atlanta, he graduated from school in Shanghai, and then he went off to Switzerland for a couple of years, went to hotel school there. Then he came back here, and he's in the industry today.
Yeah, so where is he now? What's he doing?
Well, I shouldn't say this. He's actually working at the Kimpton The Shane, which is an IHG hotel. But I will make a comment that before I moved back to the Americas, he transferred with his director of sales into the Kimpton Shane to open it. So there's no nepotism or relationship whatsoever.
They're excited to have him. I'm confident. They're lucky to have him.
Thank you.
They're lucky to have him. Okay, so with all of this global worldly experience, and now you're in the head seat of the Americas, what are we bringing with us? What experiences? What are your goals for the Americas? I think you can have a lot of fingerprints on this stuff.
Yeah, it has. Well, I was fortunate really to have the 3.5, 4 years as the COO.
Sure.
So I knew the landscape, knew the business, had built relationships with the owners and got a good understanding of it. But look, certain front and center of IHG strategy, as it is with our competitors in any business, is growth.
Yep.
I really look back at the time that I was in China, where we doubled our portfolio and doubled our growth pipeline in a very rapidly growing market. Really gave me an incredible grasp of what growth means and how we should approach that. Coming back here in a market that doesn't have that double-digit opportunity every year, a very competitive market, but just those principles of what we want to do and what we need to do and how we expand our brand portfolio are really important drivers of the way that I think about our strategy of growth, and whether that's by brand or by category. We've now got 19 hotels in our portfolio, as you know, so we've got the right brands in the right categories.
So give me some nuggets. What are you focused on? What are going to be the growth?
Well, we're a powerhouse in mid-scale and mainstream, as you know, so Holiday Inn Express and Holiday Inn and our suites brands. In the last couple of years, we've launched three brands with Atwell Suites as a extended stay suites brand. Getting that going, we've got a good pipeline, but getting the hotels open is really the proof point of that brand. We launched Avid, which is primarily a mid-scale new build brand. And then, as you know, late last year, we launched Garner, which is a mid-scale conversion brand. So far we've got 4 open, 15 in the pipeline. We're being really selective about where we grow that brand initially to ensure, first and foremost, we find the right owner, find the right conversion opportunity, and prove up the business case to then accelerate that growth. And certainly in the mid-scale segment with our competitors and ourselves, we see that as a really lucrative market, growing from about $12 billion of value today to about $18 billion by 2030. So big opportunity for the big hotel groups.
Do you see that continuing? I mean, the headwinds that are there today, what are you experiencing?
Yeah, well, look, yes, there has been a slowdown, and my approach is that, again, by category, and we've got 3 distinct categories. What I'm driven by is relative share of growth. How are we performing against our peers in regards to the competitors? And fortunately, if we look back at this first quarter last year to this quarter this year, we've grown our relative share, which is one tick for me. So I guess in regards to my journey, we had great momentum, as the industry did, coming out of 2023, and slowed down a little in Q1 this year. But if you put the two together, we're up. The industry's up, we're up year over year. But some of the things that we're really looking at is just the conversion opportunity. There's no question about that. 38% of our deals in Q1 were conversion, which enables us to achieve that growth, but also shows that the brands that are conversion ready, if you have them there in the right distribution platform, that's a good entry point in that regard. So glad to see that. That keeps growth and immediacy of growth and fee income coming off straight away. But also, again, just looking at the mid-scale segment, there's a lot of opportunity there. But, same in the luxury and lifestyle space, where we're really serious about that category, not in a volume sense, but in a value sense, and making sure that we've got our powerhouse of 5 brands positioned here, particularly in the US, where we've been underrepresented.
Yeah, talk more about luxury and lifestyle, because I know that was your experience overseas, and I know that's a title in your title right now today, luxury and lifestyle. So let's dive into that.
Yeah.
Are we bringing that here? What did we learn there that we're going to expand here? How big of a growth opportunity is that area?
Yeah, well, look, up until 6-7 years ago, IHG really only had Intercontinental as our only luxury brand. And by that, it became the largest luxury brand in the world, but really disparate from sort of upper upscale all the way through to upper luxury. So we went thoughtfully about a strategy to grow in this space, and we acquired Kimpton Hotels and Restaurants back in 2017. And then we needed an upper luxury portfolio of brands. So we acquired the Regent brand with really strong heritage, particularly Asian heritage, and that was more the traditional upper luxury brand in the segment. And then we bought the Jewel and the Crown with Six Senses back in 2019. So my role really was to come in and say, well, how do these brands position? What are we looking at in regards to the owner typology that we're after, the customer that we're after, the geographical locations where we want to play, whether that's urban or resort, and then what capabilities IHG needs to build to ensure that we're seen by our guests and our owners of having that capability in the marketplace. And just with those acquisitions and that diverse approach towards things, we became the second largest behind Marriott, luxury and lifestyle player in the world. If we look at open and pipeline, which people say, wow, I didn't expect IHG was in that position. One other thing that we looked at is the opportunity for hotels to retain their independence and their own identity and provide a conversion brand. So we launched Vignette 2 years ago. And that's playing in that space as well. So we've got 5 brands in the category, but lots of opportunity here in the US because really we have Kimpton and Intercontinental, but not Regent or Six Senses represented, but they're on the way.
Yeah. So layman, there's tons when you travel internationally, right? Yeah. It's amazing brands, amazing hotels, amazing options. It's where we all go vacation,
sure,
if I may, but not as much representation here in the States. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be tons of opportunity. You got to have your eyeballs. Where can I go drive to my nice IHG destination? Yeah,
there are. And look, there's a proliferation of upper luxury brands, particularly in a mature market like the US. I guess one thing is that, the proliferation of brands provides opportunity where we can bring in and introduce a new brand into a market which is dominated by some of the iconic brands that we know. On the other hand, barriers of entry are really high. Yeah. From the point of view of access to land, real estate developments. So we're looking at new developments in key locations or conversion opportunities. For example, the Regent Santa Monica, which opens during the summer, the former Lowe's Hotel. We were fortunate to work with Teague on bringing Regent to life there. It is going to be transformative in regards to upper luxury hotels in the LA market, right on the beach in Santa Monica. And I'd love to do a walkthrough there with you at some
bring the crew. I'm excited.
It would be great. So that's going to be our launching pad for Regent. Regent was in the US many years ago, but it was bought by Four Seasons, and they looked at converted some of the existing Regents into Four Seasons, and then they sold it off on a couple of ownership journeys. So that's the relaunch of Regent in the US. We're looking at other urban locations. Of course, we'd love to be in New York, and that's a primary focus area for us. And then some resort locations. With Six Senses, Six Senses is so well known in the US. 40% of the customers that travel to Six Senses are US-based customers, without a brand being really known here with what does a Six Senses look like. So we opened the Six Senses Grenada about a month ago. That's our first one into the Americas market here. We've got some great hotels in the pipeline. Some of them we haven't announced, they're signed, but we haven't announced yet, and a lot that we're working on as well. But we find there's insatiable demand for Six Senses. In fact, we have to be really, thoughtful about where we want to distribute and focus our distribution plan on that, not the opportunistic areas there. So, and we'll get some urban Six Senses, but Six Senses is a destination brand. It's underpinned by sustainability and wellness. It's a experiential brand, primarily in resort locations, but like some of the brands in that category, we'll anchor some key urban locations with a few to be announced in the next couple of months.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there. Are you confident? Still feeling confident in that upper luxury space?
Yes.
Going forward?
Yeah. We are, and certainly that's built upon the customer demographic that they're traveling. The affluence is there. We're not really seeing any, headwinds from some of the economic uncertainties that we're confronting at the moment. People have got that income. There's an aging population. They've got the money. They've got the time. In particular, as we, the baby boomers like me, come through that are there. There's an aspiration in the new wealth generation or the second generation. And, it's impenetrable at this point in time. So we expect that to continue, and therefore there's owner demand in that space. And then the lifestyle element is coming into play, where the younger generation are really looking for brands that provide that bespoke experience, that individual hotel. But, a brand like Kimpton is known by people of our age, but also the next generation. So that's really working into our favour. And then there's the branded residences piece as well, which is pretty lucrative for owners and developers to use a brand to get that halo for the branded residential platform, and also a great fee income stream for the big brands as well.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of projects, and you kind of have to have that, I think, today.
Yeah, well, in the US, 70% of the upper luxury deals have got some form of branded residences component to it. It helps from the development proposition and multi-use facilities as well.
What do you see? Keep going down. What do you see in the mid-scale and extended stay markets? What do you see in there?
Well, look, still good demand. I mean, the big brands will continue to proliferate there. But one thing I'm really energized about is that the post-COVID demand has really been stronger than we've expected from the industry point of view. So demand is strong, rates are strong, and therefore over time, with the cycle of time, the supply path has to catch up. So once again, we're doing a lot of conversions in the brands that we are conversion friendly or existing brands. That's fueling 38-40% of the industry growth at the moment. Owners are just a little bit of trepidation. The deal flow is there, or the pipeline of deals is there, and we're seeing that again across the industry. It's whether or not their owners are really ready to sign the deal, moving from LOI to execute it, or to break ground and get on with their development. So it's a phase, but again, if demand continues to be as strong as what we're seeing, that's the best fuel for growth, and that's how we're looking at that in that area. Extended stay, once again, we've got great brands in that area there. New brands launched into the space there, and particularly in the mid-scale extended stay brand where we have Candlewood, which is a really well-known brand, but we've got to be mindful that there are new brands coming into that segment.
Yeah, a lot of new brands.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm going to keep peppering you with questions. Globally, what do you see globally happen? Global travel.
Global travel flows, not back to the pre-pandemic. Certainly the US market last year was the year of the US going to Europe.
Yeah.
This year it seems to be the US demand for the summer is Japan. I mean, that's just really accelerating its destinational appeal, globally. Once again, global demand is up at about 4% growth year over year, and that's projected to continue going that way. The world is becoming much more connected. People have got the aspiration to travel. Again, the older generation have got time and money to be able to travel. And we haven't really seen the Chinese outbound travel come back to what it was pre-pandemic. They're starting now to move into Southeast Asia and a little bit into the Pacific area. But once they open up the borders there, we'll see really strong growth from that segment in Europe and the US, because they're the aspirational destinations. So demand is good. The indicators are strong. Air capacity is something that we all need to ensure that we're getting the connectivity between the source markets and the destinations. So we need to advocate with the industry and alongside the industry in that area. Some good work being done by USTA and Brand USA for our destination, the US. And again, China is our second most important growth market, and we're continuing to see that. Even just with some economic headwinds and some real estate headwinds in China, the resilience of that market, the middle class population and their aspiration to travel still goes through any of those cycles that we're seeing in China. So that's still a very big growth market for us. And then again, as I said, the luxury and lifestyle area is something we're seeing an opportunity for us globally.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're seeing this slowdown in China, but you don't seem to have any concern with them traveling. They're going to travel regardless.
Well, domestically they will. I mean, that's it's a big population, and as I said, there's 40% of the market is coming into the middle class, and that's compounding year by year. So strong domestic travel, big population, as I said. But, once, I guess, the embargoes are lifted on, I guess, the need to travel, and, China's had to come out of the pandemic like any other country. So They wanted their people to consume and travel within their own market, which is good for our business, good for growth. But once borders open up, once the availability of visas start to open up, and once air capacity is put back in play, we're going to see that China market really surge again, and the US and as I said, Europe will be the benefactors of that.
All right, keep giving me the future. What's your crystal ball show for the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months in our industry? Still a good space to be?
Well, it is a good space. A few interest rate cuts obviously will help everyone, both personally, professionally, and those developers that have got the courage to develop, own, and build hotels. Something that I've never had. I'm a lifelong hotelier, but I'll sit on the other side of the fence. Maybe one day I'll get that.
There's a different personality that is a developer. They're comfortable with risk. They're comfortable doing it. And I think, but developers are going to develop. That's what they do.
Yeah, they do.
Good times and bad. I mean, I get it more might be in the design, might be lingering in the design phase, but developers are going to continue to develop.
Yeah, they are.
So if you've got good brands and in good markets, and I think they're going to continue. The financial markets, the debt is obviously tough.
Yep.
But the good developers are figuring out ways how to get through it.
Yeah, they sure are.
It's slowing down the entire pipeline for everybody.
Yep.
We're seeing that. I'm just optimistic that won't be too big of a deal for too long, even though it still seems to be slowing and grinding and not loosening where we want. But I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you
so.
see?
Yeah, exactly the same. And you're closer to the owners in respect to the financing environment, the transaction environment, and the advisory environment. So look, we're seeing the same things. But as I said, the best fuel for growth is strong domestic demand. I mean, in the US, 90% of the business is domestically generated, and in the mid-scale segment, that's where the population is, that's where the growth is, that's where the long-term opportunity will be. So it's a little cycle, but as I said, the pipelines are robust. Brands are launching, our competitors and ourselves are launching new brands in the areas that matter most, and certainly the mid-scale segment is the sweet spot at the moment with projected growth in that category. And strong, as I said, strong domestic mobility, whether it's leisure travel, business travel, and the groups market is coming back into the upper upscale and luxury area there. So it's playing out segment by segment and typology of owner and geography. But, one thing we need to be is, where do the customers want to be and where are they coming from? And that's the place to start your focus of your growth strategy. So Jolyon Smith, our CDO and development team are all over this. And as I said, for me, in the good times, in the challenging times, or in the stable, steady state times, it's about getting our share of growth. And that's what I'm after.
Would that young you believe where you ended up?
Oh, absolutely not.
Right.
The young me would have known that I would have grown a career internationally. There's no question about that. Very much in hotel operations, but not to the countries that I've moved around to, and the roles that I've been given. And I guess my mum says to me, or my mom, as you say over here, mum says to me, she said, two things, Jolyon, that are a real reflection of you. Is one of you've got courage. You really had the courage to be able to move around, take on things where you didn't believe that, you didn't know where you were going or what you were doing, to take your family in your later life, but to take on roles where you had a question in your mind, but took that courage to do it, which is great. And the other thing that I learned, and I share this a lot with people, is never underestimate your own potential, because in many instances the biggest doubter of anyone is yourself, and that kept me going. So those two little snippets from my mum stick with me today.
Well, that answers my question. What advice would you give the next generation? But that's
pretty much the same.
Yeah,
and it's not a linear path, right? And we have a lot of people in our corporate environment, and also to the hotels that come from outside the industry, and they've got all the experience, the platform, the functional capability, the education, and their expectations are step by step. But one thing I'd also give advice is to, when you get to a certain point in time, spreading your roots and your foundations as a platform to grow your career is the best advice I'd give a lot of people, and I have to do that a lot.
What are we doing for, say, the next generation, both sort of development and operations, but bringing on the next crew of developers, whether it's diversity or not? What are we doing there?
Yeah, well, look, we come from a diverse industry. I mean, the owner profile of our owners throughout the United States is very diverse ethnically, whether whether that's the Indian owners, the Asian owners, and just next generation of owners that are coming through there as well. But equally, I'm at the stage in my career where I really want to leave a legacy on the industry, and that's through next generation of talent. So I do spend a lot of time with our talent, whether it's in hotels or in our offices here in Atlanta, in regards to 2 or 3, 4 levels down, giving them the inspiration of our industry, sharing the opportunities that I've had and my stories, but helping us really grow that through. And one thing that IHG are absolutely committed on is our diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. And here in Atlanta, we're doing a lot of work there with the HBCUs, with Clark University, Morehouse, etc., by spending time on campus with them, introducing the hospitality industry, hopefully with a program at some point in time, internships. And we have a lot of the students coming through our Ravinia headquarters a lot here as well, because that's really important. Not only about providing people the opportunity, but really lifting our game in regards to providing opportunities for those that traditionally have not either been attracted to our industry or not given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and you just you find yourself, right? You just want to reach out and be like, God, everybody come. This is amazing. Come this direction.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let me help. This is not that hard. You're going to do great. Let's go.
That's right. And it can enter it at any point of the journey, whether that's in a hotel like I did and started my career, or whether you come into the corporate side, and across functional as well. It's just, you just don't need to be a hotelier to be successful or to be attracted to our industry. And
amen.
We're a big player here in Atlanta, both of us, so we've got a role to play.
Let's do it together. I love this. Give me a day in the life of Jolyon Bulley. He wakes up in the morning and...
Well, it could be a good day or a bad day, right? I'll give you the middle version. But look, I'm an early riser, always have been. So I'm sort of up at 4:30 in the morning, and the way I start my day, I don't run anymore. I'm not a big gym person, but I get out and walk. That really starts me and gets me going. And I guess I start with just clear the head. Then I listen to some music or podcasts, and then in the last 30 minutes, I'm working out what the day looks like. But that's how I start, good breakfast, and then get on with it. As you know, like with you as well, we can get in that back-to-back routine of almost being like in a doctor's appointment where you're just taking the next patient coming through. And I'm not a doctor and I'm not a professor. I'd rather really be in a situation where we're having to deal with challenges, but looking forward to the future and how we can establish the business. I spend a lot of time with people. I'm an extrovert, but I'm also very passionate about growing talent and investing in them for our future. And then look, travel. I just got back late last night from the Cayman Islands. Not a bad trip, 24 hours down to the Cayman Islands. We opened our Hotel Indigo there alongside the Kimpton Seafire. So that's great. Balancing travel and balancing time here in Atlanta in the office.
How often are you traveling?
I'd say about 50% of the time. It could be like with UT.
Sure.
Yeah, it could be 100% of the time. But, the pandemic taught us, some disciplines on that. But also I want to travel when the business necessitates that. And that's, mainly, due to owners or to growth and being out there in the industry and representing IHG and that, just not traveling for the sake of it. So
it's funny, sort of taking care of our own health has been a big thing. And then family is part of that. My daughter's graduating high school right now. So I've been on lockdown for no travel, which on some hand gets me stir crazy, but on the other hand, I've loved. It's been great.
Yeah, it's great when you have those weeks, and congratulations to your daughter. I'm really thrilled for you.
Thank you.
Wish you the best.
We just lost our championship lacrosse game, but we're getting over it.
All right, but they worked hard to get to the championship.
But they keep telling me.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's a special time. Sports are great. Kids are great. They've had a heck of a journey going through it.
Yeah, it's great to see them. But also, as you say, good to be home during those formative years and be around it. There's no place like it.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
You really don't. That was selfish. I want to be here. I want to watch. I want to be in the sideline.
Yeah.
Head fan.
Yeah. I admire the fact that, you're from Atlanta. You grew up here. You're surrounded by family, but it can be a trap that we can fall into by not spending enough time with our family.
I agreed, but I think you've done a great job raising 3 amazing kids.
Oh, thanks.
So congrats. Thank you. Okay, another question. Where's your Where's your, I won't say your favorite place to travel, but where's the best place to travel you would recommend to tell somebody they have to go?
Well, look, I'm a big fan of Asia. Spent a lot of time there, and it's just so culturally, ethnically diverse. I would say, for one trip of a life, and you only need to do it once, but you need to allow enough time, it'd probably be to go to China, to go to cities like Beijing and Shanghai, which contrast history with the future of China, and then go west, right out to places like Lijiang province, which is I think there's about 54 ethnicities in there. So it's a touch of Southeast Asia, a touch of Tibet, a different part of China in regards to just the ethnic profile, the food, the people, the culture, incredible. And it gets you up to Shangri-La, which was, to me, a great memory. So I would say a trip to China would be well worth on the itinerary. But one thing I will say is we are creatures of habit. We always like going back to the destinations that we've seen before. My tip, if I look at my older self, but to my kids, and if I had my time again, keep moving. Get to new destinations, new countries, new cultures, rather than that repetitive habit that we get into. So the world's a big place. Get out there and do it.
That's great advice. And if I go to China, you're coming with me.
Oh, for sure.
I need a tour guide.
No problems at all. Well, if I can't make the trip, I've got a lot of influence there.
My father tells stories of being a kid driving from Spartanburg down to Myrtle Beach. And, before the internet or reservations, it was, vacancy, no vacancy. Yeah. And they drove from Spartanburg all the way and got down there and everything was sold out. Until they went a little further off the beach and sold out. And then a little further off the beach, sold out. And eventually they got home and all the way back home. We needed hotels. We needed it. And I remember, the people that were the wealthy people in the small towns were, I don't know, you owned the McDonald's, the Holiday Inn, the Coca-Cola bottling plant, right? Maybe a pharmacy or a car dealership or something. And that was it.
That was it. And look at where we are today. And the iconic US hospitality brands have made our future, made a career for you and I and our colleagues in the industry, but also made a lot of people a great net wealth over time as well, and well deserved because it's a relentless industry.
Love it. Jolyon, thank you very much for sitting down with me. This has been fantastic.
Teague, appreciate the time, and thank you for all that you do with Hunter and right out there in the industry too.
Love it. Can't wait to do this again. We'll come to Santa Monica.
We'll do it.